Well, Razorback fans, now it's just a wait and see game on what happens next with the Razorbacks and the football team and the football program. So, what is the latest? Well, let's talk about in today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, as we'll have plenty of things to talk about, where the SEC has their reportedly 3 teams released permanently for each football squad. Arkansas has theirs. We'll get into that, as well as some pretty significant news coming out of the college basketball realm, but in the SEC basketball, what impact it's going to have on Arkansas. But I wanted to start today with kind of an update, or at least diving into some of the latest things going on with Razorback football. And I wanted to start, of course, by saying thank you to the amount of people that watched and listened to yesterday's podcast. I mean, everybody that listens and watches every day, you're the best. But it definitely was a little bit shocking to see how much it blew up and how many people agreed with me, especially people even within the university. So it was really cool, and I appreciate it. It's not going to be as spirited of a podcast today because I don't like to do those very often, because then if you do it too often, suddenly people are going to start saying, okay, how authentic are you actually? It's like, no, my authenticity actually just comes out when I'm mad, and I can't stop. So either way, it's not going to be like that today, but there is going to be some things I wanted to dive into, specifically dealing with the Razorbacks and with the football program. We got to hear from Sam Pittman a little bit, and I'm going to play some clips from his press conference, but also get into something that Brandon Marcello of CBS Sports was diving into about Bobby Petrino being behind the scenes. I meant to talk about it yesterday, but kind of just ran out of time. But either way, Sam Pittman met with the media yesterday, and I think it was going to be very fascinating to see how he came across. Was he going to come across as somebody that's upset and angry? Is he going to come across as somebody who is, status quo? Like, what was the situation going to be? And he was even asked about the added pressure, if there is added pressure after Saturday's loss, and if there's any sort of, outside noise. How do you keep that from creeping in? Just take a listen to what Sam Pittman had to say.
Against Notre Dame?
Trey, it'd be kind of hard to have more pressure. I mean, I think the pressure you put on yourself is obviously a lot because you want to do well for a lot of reasons. And I've kind of had this same type pressure for, 3 years now. It seems like 40, but I think it's been about 3. And, we have an opportunity. The only way we can win people that don't believe in us, or win some more positive thoughts about our program, is to win ball games. And that's really the bottom line. You can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, but what's a score? And that really is what changes people's perception or perspective of you. And we have a great opportunity here, as we well know, that we could be 4-0, we're 2-2, but I say that only because if we're 4-0, I think we're all sitting in here thinking we have a great chance to beat Notre Dame, and our football team will think that. We've got to rally around this week, but we'll do that. But to answer your question, probably not any more than normal.
All right, so Sam Pittman, I think, is doing. He's not doing anything wrong. He's not saying anything wrong. It is who he is. I think that so many times we and fans can get into a position to where they're just like, I want to see the coach yelling. I want to see him all pissed off. I want to see him slamming his hand down and everything. And it's like, sure, but it doesn't equate to wins. It doesn't equate to the problem being fixed. Sometimes it's just the way it is. In fact, I'm kind of in a way of the opposite. I like to see my coaches stay consistent no matter if it's good or bad. It's not to say they can't show a little bit of emotion, but I don't want them to see just go flying off the handle randomly at all. But either way, it just kind of, I don't know. It just kind of gives the vibe that there's an understanding, that it's just kind of a foregone conclusion of, yep, this is kind of just the way it is, and it's coming to an end. But he's also asked about any player meetings and any player meetings that are going on, and if that ever happened, which it's not that there was a report or a rumor that it was. It's just a matter of would there be anything going on with it. Here's what he had to say about that.
Last 2 weeks.
No. I mean, guys, we didn't get beat by 100. We lost 2 games. Our plan is to beat Notre Dame. What do we need to change? We need to tackle better. We need to run to the ball better. We need to take care of the football, and we can win games. So I'm not trying to make a mountain out of molehill. The public will, but we've got a good team. We're doing the right things. We got to hold on to the football, and we got to tackle better, and we got to play harder, and we'll win those games. And so, no, I don't recall any meetings or anything like that.
See, it's just you just sit there and you listen to it, and you're just kind of in a situation to where you can't help but feel like this is just a guy that understands and knows that this is kind of coming to an end. I could be completely wrong about that. I could be completely off base, but it just seems like, given the circumstances and given the high level of tension among Razorback fans in the Razorback fan base, that fans are just kind of, it's like you're on a breaking point. And if you've already broken through, I mean, that was obvious. You broke it through. The breaking point is no longer around. And it's like when you hear that from the head coach, it's almost like, is he aware? He has to be. He has to be aware of the situation. He has to be aware of how fans feel and how everyone's feeling. And it just seems like there's an understanding. Like I said, there's just an understanding that it's the way it's going to be. Obviously, I got to do my job, and I'm going to keep doing my job. And if something happens, which, again, I don't think is wrong for him approaching it that way, but it does certainly give the vibe to me on that. And finally, I want to play this clip from Brandon Marcello. I meant to play it yesterday, but of CBS Sports, talking about behind the scenes and the deal with Bobby Petrino. It's a little bit long of a clip, so I may cut it a little short. But here's Brandon Marcello talking about Bobby Petrino behind the scenes, what's going on. Pretty fascinating stuff.
Pittman, I think it's 7-19 overall in those one-score games. So it's just even dating back to when he was winning there, it wasn't all that great. Here's another interesting thing about his contract, right? His buyout drops if his career record is below 500. So really kind of the magic number has always been if he wins 5 games this year, his buyout's $9.8 million. If he loses 8, goes 4-8, it's $6.9 million. I will tell you this, talking to sources around Arkansas, buyout money doesn't matter at this point. If they feel like it's going to be the best situation, they will make a move in the middle of the season. Don't foresee that happening this week because we talk about players entering the portal. That's one issue. Redshirt players, they can decide, hey, I'm going to redshirt for the rest of the year if my coach isn't going to be here. But also, they got Notre Dame this week. Then they have a bye week. If something's going to happen midseason, it's probably going to happen here in 7-8 days. And you hit on the Bobby Petrino situation. A year ago, I'll say this. There was a lot of reluctance about Bobby Petrino taking over as interim head coach if that opportunity came to be, if Sam Pittman was fired. I was told even at the time that Travis Williams, the defensive coordinator, would most likely be the interim coach. Fast forward to now, the weakness of that team is by far the defense. There's a lot more push for maybe Petrino should be the interim head coach. And I will tell you from people I've spoken to, Bobby Petrino's been working them phones, baby. He's been talking a lot behind the scenes. He's positioning himself to take over the Arkansas football program, at least on an interim basis, if Sam Pittman's fired. That will be fascinating after everything that happened there. a decade ago with the motorcycle accident, getting lying and then getting fired by the former athletics director, Jeff Long there. I never thought I'd see the day where Bobby Petrino's even, talked about at Arkansas, let alone working back at Arkansas. But now we're very realistic chance, gentlemen, that he could be patrolling the sidelines as the head coach. And I'm all, listen, I'm not into that person reading the body language and all this stuff.
Well, I won't get into the rest of that stuff because it wasn't really the point of it. But no, here's the deal: is like with what Brandon Marcello is saying there, and Brandon Marcello is very much in the know, a lot more in the know than me or anybody. But I'll tell you this: I've heard the same thing from similar people that talks about Bobby Petrino calling and working the phones. Maybe to provide a little added context to at least what I've heard is it's not at least in the way of, hey, I'm trying to undermine the coach, or hey, I'm trying to do anything. It's more of a, hey, I see where this is going. This is about to come to an end, but I still want to show I want to be here. And he's calling up some of these boosters and donors or whoever, not in the way of undermining or anything, but just kind of looking at it as, hey, if this comes to an end in the middle of the season, I want to be the interim coach. I want to kind of prove myself. Would there be a certain situation to where if I did a good job, could I get the head coaching position? And if I did, what would that look like? What would my, just kind of getting, looking at his options. And that's how I am viewing it. And maybe I'm viewing it in the wrong lens, but I'm viewing it as he's trying to say, all right, well, if I can't be a head coach here, if the head coaching position is not going to be an option for me here, then I need to start looking elsewhere and start figuring some things out. That's the way I took it. So that's a fascinating thing, though. But if something does happen in the middle of the season, I think next week is going to be the week. I think after the Notre Dame game, that bye week, folks, it could get wild. It just depends. It just depends on what happens in Notre Dame. It depends on what happens in these other situations. But it could get insane with some of the moves and some of the things that's going to be going on. So just be on the lookout. But that's kind of the latest situation that's going on. But as it stands right now, Sam Pittman's still your head coach. Hunter Yurchek's still your athletic director. Bobby Petrino's still your OC. Travis Williams still your DC. All of that is still the same right now as where it stands. But there's certainly a lot of talking going on. And anytime there's a lot of talking, a lot of smoking, there's a lot of fire in. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'll tell you what, though. Razorback football, SEC football, now you know who your three permanent opponents are. Who are they? Let's talk about it. So stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Square, your neighborhood spots, all your favorite ones, run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the Order Corner Deli that has been serving your community for decades. These places are the places that bring everybody together, and when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. It's a great thing about Square is that there's a lot of places here in the local side of Fayetteville and in the Northwest Arkansas area that uses Square. It's some Daylight Donuts is a place that you've probably heard of. How about Dot's Nashville Hot Chicken? I know that's a very popular place. I can't forget about the Catfish Hole. That's big. And here's the deal is I haven't been here yet, but I'm going to go here just based on the name of it because it just cracks me up. And apparently it's in Elkins, and I can't help but laugh about it, considering there's G's Meaty Buns LLC, more meat. I gotta love that, but also Rub Me Raw Barbecue. Like there's just a lot of cool places like that are local, and they all use Square. So since they're a proud partner of over 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world, you want to support them as well as those local businesses. So you can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more about Square. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. We're also presented by our friends over at Game Time. College football is back, and we know that we couldn't be more excited about it. Tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it at all. Hopefully Arkansas stays that way. But let's be real. Actually, getting tickets is a lot tougher than what it can seem. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices at checkout, jumping up, skyrocketing. It's all pretty rough. But that's why you got to use Game Time. That's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives you the advantage and gives all the advantages to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets on all the best prices and with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Can't get a better deal than that. And a lot of Razorback fans are going to be looking for tickets for the Notre Dame game this weekend. Yeah, I know Arkansas is not as good as what you were hoping, but it's still Notre Dame coming to town, and it's still a really big deal. So if you're looking for the best deals on the tickets, no matter what, especially if you decide at the last minute, use the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets for the Arkansas Razorbacks this year with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So the big reveal is happening today, officially at least, of which teams in the SEC will be facing off against permanently. Well, I say permanently, at least over the next 4 years in football. They're going to a 9-game schedule starting in 2026, and each team is going to have 3 permanent opponents for that 4-year stretch. Although I would be hard-pressed to think it changes much, just to be honest. But I think it's going to stick to pretty much what you thought. And we've all had our theories. We've all had our thoughts on what it was going to be, what it was going to look like, all of that. Well, here you go. Boom. Here it is. The entire SEC right there on your screen, but Arkansas will be facing off against Missouri, Texas, and LSU. This was according to Chris Lowe of On3, which, again, I know it's not official, but this is the reports. He is as good as it gets when it comes to college football insider knowledge, and so I'm going to go off of his report. Missouri, Texas, and LSU. Now, I felt, and I'm not going to toot my own horn because it's like a lot of people said this, but I knew Texas and Missouri were going to be 2 of them. It was a matter of what was that third one going to be, and I think the options to everybody who understood it was going to be LSU, Ole Miss, or even Texas A&M. I felt like those were the only legitimate 3 options there, and you got LSU, so you got the battle for the Golden Boot. You got the battle line rivalry, and then you just got Texas. So, honestly, I am great with this. I'm fine with it. I preferred Ole Miss just because it was so much more fun of a crazy game, as we all know, each and every year. But, a lot of you wanted LSU. A lot of you liked that game. A lot of you liked the Golden Boot game, and I get it. And everybody, at least most people I talk to, want Texas because it's just got history behind it. And the Missouri you're just stuck with, so it's the way it is. And I'm looking at it from the SEC in general, and you can see all the teams and who everybody's going to be playing. I honestly don't see anybody that got screwed. I don't see any teams that really have any reason to be upset. There's a couple of them that are kind of random, like Ole Miss playing Oklahoma every year. All right, it's kind of weird, but whatever. It looks like all the rivalries were used and appreciated across the board. I don't know who would be upset by this. And who could be upset by any of the games that have been put out there. So either way, there you have it. Those are the teams that Arkansas and the SEC is going to be playing. And here's the deal: it's like some people were hoping it's like, oh well, they could end up playing LSU. Arkansas and LSU could go back to the day after Thanksgiving or the Thanksgiving weekend. And people were bringing this up to me. I was like, why? Why would you think that? They're like, well, they're going to put Oklahoma and Missouri at the end of the year. But why? Why would they do that? Well, Oklahoma needs somebody to play at the end of the year. Okay. But doesn't everybody else? Like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I know for a fact guaranteed that Arkansas is for sure 100% going to be playing Missouri at the end of the season every year, and that there's no chance that they play LSU and that mixes up. I'm not going to sit here because I don't know. However, I would be floored, shocked if that happened. Whoever they are and for whatever reason, they want this Arkansas-Missouri game at the end of the year. Again, it's like having the 2 kids in class that had nobody to be paired up with, so you get paired up at the end. That's just not going to happen. They're not going to move that LSU game back to the day after Thanksgiving. But if they did, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be pumped up. I would love it. It's where it belongs. It's where it's always been and what made it so great for so long until crap happened and people didn't fight hard enough to keep it there. And so I'm all for it if that happens, but I just feel like it's going to be Missouri at the end of the season no matter what. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. Pretty big, shocking news coming out of SEC basketball. At least shocking to me. We'll talk about it and how it impacts Arkansas. Stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, Mazda. They craft cars for those who do more than simply just move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. With more IIHS Top Safety Plus Picks awards than anybody else, from footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can make everyday drive feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move or be moved. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So really crazy thing that happened today. I should say yesterday. I'll say today because I'm recording this on the day of. But how about the breaking news in the SEC where Bruce Pearl, the Auburn head coach that has been there for a long time, one of the more tenured coaches in the SEC, who have been to 2 Final Fours at this point, went to the Final Four last year. It came out that he is retiring effective immediately. And his son, Steven, is going to be the head coach for the upcoming season. Insanity. Absolutely insanity. Now, people were starting to wonder when the first reports came out that, was it because he was going to get into politics? Because that was always the thing. He's running for office, anything like that. No, because what it ended up being is that he's going to move into an ambassador role in the athletic department as special assistant to the athletics director. So there's that. So 11 seasons as a head basketball coach. Here's the thing. I've always liked Bruce Pearl. Sometimes he kind of rubbed me the wrong way just because a lot of coaches don't like him. He's kind of a whiner to some, but I think he's a good coach. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been, and he took Auburn, which is a doormat basketball program, and made him into a really good basketball program. And, you know, he went to a Final Four last year. And I was just surprised by this because it's just the timing of it. And I'm not hating on Bruce Pearl or Auburn, because this could have all been part of the plan and they're fine with it. Like, that could have been all fine and dandy. Totally. But man, if it was me, I would be a little upset by the time. It's like, dude, we're about to start the season here in a little bit. And you step down, you did the same thing that Jay Wright did, and you're giving it to your son. And listen, his son may be a great coach or end up being a great coach, but it would rub me the wrong way where I'm like, we're not even doing a coaching search. We're just giving it to this kid for a 4-year deal. That's what they're doing. They're giving him a 4-year deal. I wouldn't like that. But I also understand Auburn's perspective, because it's like, hey, this guy's done so much. He's made our program great. He's going to stay in a role. And I'm sure part of that role was to, kind of make sure that we give his son the job. So it's like, I get both sides of it, but I just don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing that ends up being good or ends up being successful for Auburn. But either way, it's shocking. And it was kind of, I'm not saying it's going to mean automatic wins, but if you think about it, Arkansas, the team that they are playing twice this season, is the Auburn Tigers. So, maybe if things don't go very well, especially if Steven, his son, ends up being the coach and having some struggles there, maybe it doesn't go too well. Maybe Arkansas ends up being all right in those games. But either way, just insane news. And we'll be seeing how he does down there at Auburn. But Bruce Pearl's not going to be there anymore. And I think that that's only a positive for the rest of the SEC, at least. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. Keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.